distinguished guests, President Alain, let me thank you first for inviting me to this very interesting event, both AUT and LSE and the University of London. And let me tell you that I feel very glad and honored to be with you today for the launch ceremony of AUT's new program, the BSc Banking and Finance and BSc Business and Management with the University of London under the academic direction of the London School of Economics. This initiative clearly answers several issues at the same time, namely the fact that Lebanon's academic institutions remain vibrant and very aware of the important role they can play in providing our country and the region with the skills that can increase the added value in our economy, boost the competitiveness of our structures, improve the purchasing power of our households, and give us an edge in specific, well-focused areas from which we can service the region. On the other hand, it is a clear signal that our country remains attractive for very distinguished institutions in the world which believe in the future of Lebanon as a country that promotes knowledge and values, even when the region goes, or the region around us, goes into very difficult times and human beings go to unbearable extremes. Before talking about the exogenous shocks that Lebanon has to deal with, let us quickly go through our own situation. I have to talk about that, as it is always necessary to question our choices and the model that we have chosen for our economy, with its various impacts on the social situation, with a quick overview of public finance and its implications on the ability of Lebanon to grow, in addition to what we are preparing for our future generations. Academic institutions are, before anything else, the builders of tomorrow, and thus I feel it is important to have a glance at what our future generations can expect. We are in a country that is nowadays growing at slightly more than 2%, which is not enough to cope with our debt dynamics, as you all know. But if we look at our neighbors, the war in Syria, the war in Iraq, the financial crisis in Cyprus, the slow growth in Egypt, the uncertainties in Jordan, the meltdown in Libya, the depreciation in Turkey, that's a lot. We are not doing so bad after all. Lebanon is showing some potential, but if we want to improve our situation, it would be wise to focus on our weaknesses. When Lebanon was growing by 7 and 8% during the world financial crisis in 2008, we were hardly able to increase the number of jobs by 0.5%, as our economy is very dependent on 3 activities: real estate construction, tourism, and banking. And all 3 do not provide yet sustainable and sizable employment for the skilled labor force, although banking is doing great nowadays. This is why Lebanon has finally started again to broaden the base of its economy with the measures we are taking or pushing for to support the productive sectors and to boost the players into the new economy. It is a fact that we have adopted for too long, after 1990, a model whereby our country relies massively on capital flows that cater for our financing needs, but we have spent too much on consumption, too few on relevant infrastructure, and lost too much in red tape and corruption. We stand today with a deficit of more than 10% of GDP and the debt of about 139% of GDP, despite the improvement we witnessed recently. Our current account deficit is also very high, and our balance of payment is close to nil. This translates into a massive brain drain and the loss of what you, academicians and professors, are producing with remarkable efforts. It is not true that Lebanon benefits from exporting its brains, and we should never agree with this leitmotif. And I can not but commend President Alain when she says that we want to produce the youth and keep them in Lebanon. How nice it is to find people like Tariq coming back to Lebanon and seeing them standing and willing to continue. In Lebanon, our youth can produce and share much more together, and what we need for that is threefold: institutions, law enforcement, and proper infrastructure. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no doubt that modern Lebanon badly needs a few reforms that should not wait longer, and instead of arguing about whether they can be achieved or under the present political circumstances, well, I think we must produce the political circumstances to make them happen. There is no doubt that Lebanon needs the following: 1, institutions that work, and laws that should never be superseded by politics. What is very visible today is obviously that we don't have a president of the Republic, but the fact is that our system is hardly able to meet any of the requirements. We have no general elections, we do not always succeed in filling the key positions in government and security, we do not have a budget, we did not have financial accounts for a long time, etc. Bottom line, we need institutions that work, with a clear hierarchy, an effective decision-making process, and safeguards at all levels. Number 2, we need law enforcement that is unquestionable, fair, and efficient. Number 3, we need a redistribution mechanism that serves the purposes of fairness, effectiveness, and that decrease inequality instead of concentrating wealth among happy few. This can be achieved through different budget spending and through an improved tax system, and our ministry is active both ways. This would contribute in diffusing rising insecurity and the marginalization of the weaker in our society, which leads, as you know, to extremes we don't want to see grow. Number 4, we need stronger safety nets, as it is unthinkable to continue to spend a lot of public money on public schools and hospitals and social security funds if we do not achieve very good services. No wonder why our youth leave Lebanon if they know that after a long career they will not be eligible for a retirement package that will allow them to grow old properly, or if they have to worry about having enough savings should they face illness. Let us keep in mind that this is very difficult to fight, and that it is very difficult to fight corruption in the system if we cannot secure the minimum required for the elderly, as they will want to secure it by themselves. Number 5, we need a reformed labor market to get rid of the rigidity and to attract the highly skilled workers, as well as to properly organize the presence of the very high number of potential low-skilled labor. Number 6, we need well-performing infrastructure. Lebanon can still rely on good, although slightly declining, human capital. It is critical for the country to secure the physical infrastructure to eliminate a major bottleneck for the economy. This means improving the governance of public institutions, refraining from using them as quasi-job providers, and stop using them definitely as black boxes. Number 7, we're nearly done, fighting red tape that is harming growth and competitiveness and improving our attractiveness for investment. Number 8, straightforward, stop deteriorating the environment. And finally, number 9, perhaps the most important issue, rediscover the virtues of work and production, as we have built a model where work has nearly no value, and where the value of rent is by far higher. This has been very detrimental to our competitiveness, our added value, and our values in general. After the war, we have decreased taxes, spent easy money, boosted the value of real estate, and increased interest rates to extremely high figures. We did not do it on purpose, but this has introduced the easy money sensation. Since then, it has become much better to be an insignificant owner of a plot of land than to be a hard-working entrepreneur who creates jobs and value. That number 9 is a long process I have been trying to hold for since the mid-90s. I know I've been talking for some time, but to have a clear picture, we cannot neglect the exogenous factors that Lebanon has to deal with. The first one is obviously the situation in Syria, with the long crisis, with massive spillover effect on Lebanon. As you know, 200,000 extra Lebanese under the threshold of poverty, $13 billion in opportunity losses, more than $1.5 billion of extra spending, lower revenue, devastating effects on tourism, 1.5 million additional people creating higher insecurity, depletion of infrastructure, unfair competition, and so on. That we should deal with proactively and introduce the measures that would mitigate the impact on the medium long term. The second, since yesterday, is Yemen, with the worst scenario of a long sectarian war throughout the Arab world looming at the horizon. And the first and the third exogenous shock is the petroleum riches that could be lying under the sea. If expectations prove to be true, this will prove to be a game changer for the Lebanese economy, and it could go both ways. Either in the right direction, if we take those riches and treat them as assets, invest them through a national fund and save the principal for future generations, and use the revenue from those investments as extra budgetary receipts to improve public finance and provide the country with state-of-the-art infrastructure. Or in the wrong way, by using those assets as immediate revenue, which means they would be spent under very low governance to wipe off part of what bad management has created, and that they would be lost for our children and grandchildren, and they will have a vicious effect of boosting inflation and tremendously increasing inequalities with the Dutch disease as a result. That would be the Lebanese petroleum curse. In any case, to be able to move in these directions, our country can only rely on you. It's young and enthusiastic resources with great potential. This is why such initiatives, like the one we celebrate today, are critical for your future well-being. Such a program in banking and finance responds better to the needs of the financial community and the job market, as we need to develop our intermediation skills to secure the resources to our promising new sectors, which in turn will create the jobs that will keep you and your positive energy around. The fact that you will benefit from LSE academic direction provides this program with a seal of excellence and quality appreciated by all financial institutions in Lebanon, and certainly by my ministry and by the central bank, very well represented tonight, where I serve as board member. Finally, I would also like to tell you that I will be delighted to contribute in bringing any support to the students as a new and happy member of the advisory board, including in securing students access to networks and connections that guarantee better career prospects. Thank you very much.